devotional offerings of flour and animals, burnt offerings, they should be accepted graciously. You should fulfill your heart's requests. The whole, it's also how you molly and all your good resolutions should be fulfilled. You should live up to them. Then we will rejoice in your salvation, Hashem. Hashem Eloheinu Yigdal. We'll raise the banner of Hashem on high. Yimali Adonai Kol Mishalisecha. Hashem should fulfill all your heart's requests. Now I know, says David HaMelech, Yahishia Adonai Mashiach, Hashem saves his anointed one. Ya'aneu Mishmei Kodshe, answering him from his holy heavens, Bigavures, with might, Yesha, salvation, Yamina, his right hand. Some come with their chariots, some with tanks, jeeps, armored vehicles, trucks, transport trucks. Others with cavalry, vehicles. We come with the name of God on our lips. They slipped and fell. We rose up. And we're still standing strong. Hashem is our God. We entreat him, beseech him to save us and connect himself to us on the day that we call to him. All right. It says here in the bottom of page 259, that's what we're up to. At times, even the sinners of Israel can bring down lofty souls for their children, which had been trapped in the depths of klippas, as explained in Sefer Gilgulim. And then he refers you to a book on the transmigration by Rabbi Chaim Vital. Chaim Vital was the secretary of the Arizal, wrote down the Arizal's teachings. The Arizal didn't allow anybody to write down his teachings. The Rebbe explains here in a footnote that sometimes a person leads a terrible life, terrible, self-centered, sinful life, and therefore, since he's deriving all his energy and excitement in life from klippas, he becomes their slave, and they don't let him go. They don't let him go. The Rebbe said, but sometimes, and he may have to remain, good morning, rabbits and simcha, and he may have to remain, who knows, centuries, long time. And sometimes, says the Rebbe, the klippa will allow this neshama to go free. Why? Because it's a gamble. That since the neshama has been rooted in bad deeds, so hopefully he will continue in his evil career and generate more livelihood for the klippa itself. like a wicked person who's the son of wicked people and the grandson of wicked people and the great grandson of wicked people, a whole history, and comes out that he suddenly becomes a righteous person, and so the klipa loses its gamble, and Hashem plays a winning hand. He says here, a soul that has fallen captive in the hands of the klipa remains in this state until the klipa releases it of its own free will. Anything in the hold of klippas cannot be wrested from them, taken away from them against their will. Where the principle that Hashem does not make unjustifiable demands on his creatures holds true even in the case of klippas. So when a child is born to sinful parents, the klippas may willingly release the soul in the hope that such a child will be influenced by its parents to do evil and will become a sinner as they were. And in this way, the klippa will stand to extract an even greater measure of vitality from the holiness of the soul by means of its eventual sins. Since a big soul, he'll do a lot of sins. He'll do big sins, not small fry stuff. However, having such a lofty soul, the child is capable to overcome the obstacles imposed by its parents' wickedness and may rise to the level of a tzaddik. So paradoxically, it comes to pass that a tzaddik may be born to wicked parents. It says in the Talmud, we have to be very, very careful about the children of the uneducated people, who they are considered, legally speaking, wicked because they do a lot of transgressions because they don't know any better. Since they never learn, if a person never learns, makes a lot of mistakes. Take it from me. I know. And we have the famous story. Yeah, right. It's a great story. Okay, now let's continue. Page 260. Chachma, as we explained, is the initial flash of the intellect, where the Or Ein Sof comes into the awareness of a person. And from Chachma, it goes into Bina, where it's developed and analyzed and grasped. The ability to grasp the idea is in Bina, not in Chachma. Chachma can't hold on to anything. Chachma is higher than Bina. Bina is the faculty of developing and understanding an idea and grasping it. 261. In relation to the lower faculties, good morning, welcome. Glad you are here.
Me too.
Not familiar, your name is Adriana, something like that? Gabriella?
Valeria.
What?
Valeria.
Valeria. Oh, I'll get it. Bezos Hashem. Before the year is over. And then we'll meet 20 years from now and you'll say, don't you remember me, Valeria? I'll see you with your husband and your 8 or 9 children. I'll say, oh, I didn't recognize you. I see you have a happy life. You should have a happy life. So from Chachma, from the way the light of the Ein Sof comes into Chachma, it then proceeds, is filtered and passed on down to the other spheres. He explains here on the bottom of 261 that Chachma is in fact it is the whatness of an idea. It's insubstantial, like a lightning flash. You see the flash and then it disappears. And that's why it cannot be comprehended by any thought. It can only be comprehended on the level of Bina. So Jewish people, even women who never went to yeshiva, never learned it, until recently, women never went to yeshiva. They just had emunah that they got from their family, the knowledge that they learned at home. My mother-in-law, Aleh Shalom, could have been a butcher. She knew everything about the insides of animals, but she learned from her mother. And so, but even these people who have no learning, they have no knowledge, but they have belief. And now here's a great principle, that belief, faith, is beyond understanding and comprehension. Faith represents the ability to grasp something that the intellect cannot deal with. And that's why it says, it's brought down also in Bosi Lagani, a foolish person believes everything. No matter what you tell him, he'll believe you. But there's a profound concept there, which is if I have this vessel, this cup is called a vessel, and I fill it up to here, I can see here with the light, I can see it's filled up to here with something with drink. And above that is just air. Okay. So knowledge, when you know something, you can perceive it, you see it. So I can see that this drink, which happens to be milk, goes up to here. Anything else is higher. And they don't mix. That which is higher than knowledge remains higher than knowledge. So as much as we're capable of knowing, that's what we know. And beyond that, we believe. So believe it. Therefore, the Alter Rebbe writes, it's very important for a person to learn Hasidus, because we know nothing about godliness, and we will never know anything about godliness, because godliness is infinite. We are not. But as much as we can get to know, we can know. And beyond that, we believe. So the more we know, the more milk I can put into the cup, then then belief begins at a higher level. So when we learn more about holy things, then our belief becomes a much higher level. So that a person who doesn't learn Hasidus will come over to you and say, you went to that Hasidic place. They told you so much, a lot of old wives' tales. You believe in that? You said yes, and then I know them. I know what I'm talking about. I don't believe in it. I know what I'm talking. What I believe in is much greater. They say you think your Rebbe is like God. There's no. Your concept of God is very, very limited. Since a person's concept of God is very limited, he has to believe in everything else. But the God that you believe in, I know. I don't believe in that. I know that. There was a debate was once taking place between someone who learned Hasidus and someone who didn't. And he's saying, the one who doesn't believe in it says, you think a person learns Hasidus, you're a teacher of Hasidus, you treat him like God. So, well, it says in the Ethics of the Fathers, I ought to. No, you shouldn't. Well, tell me something. How do you believe in God? What is God to you? He said, oh, God is very, very powerful. So I said, what would God do if you think he could get rid of this table? Sure he could. How would he do it? He'd send a big fire and burn it up. So what would he do with the ashes? Get a big wind and blow it away. Well, who would pick up the ashes? After the wind blows them all away, how are we going to gather them all together? They're still around. He says, don't you understand? If Hashem wants to get rid of something, he just stops creating it. It goes out of existence, just like it never was in the first place. What you believe in is, you believe in a God, which is to me not something that I know, but the God that I believe in is much greater than that. And that's what it says. The fool believes in everything, and the clever man understands. That's from Proverbs. And he says here, page 262, the fool, since he lacks understanding, he grasps every subject through his faith. But a clever person's understanding is based on reason and knowledge. Now, let's take it the next step, 262 at the bottom. But when we think about Hashem, since Hashem is by definition beyond anything that we can know, beyond knowledge, no one can comprehend. My thoughts are not your thoughts, says Hashem. And so everybody, compared to Hashem, is a fool. So the biggest intellectual and the simple, unlearned person are all on the same level. We all just believe. We believe. Our beliefs may start on different levels, but we're just believers, children of believers. And so King David writes in Tehillim, I think it's chapter 73, I'm just like an animal, he says. Animals have no knowledge. I'm a beast before you, Hashem. But I'm constantly with you because of my, hello, Esther, because of my belief, on the level of belief, I'm constantly with you. On the level of knowledge, I'm like an animal. There's no difference. Because I approach you as a fool, since I know that I'm a foolish person, I'm limited in my knowledge, then I'm like a beast. And the power of faith is precisely on the level that I can constantly be with you. And therefore, he concludes, 163, and a general rule, even the most worthless of individuals, kal shebekali, the word kal means light. So a light-headed person, who amongst light-headed people, even they would consider him light-headed, even more light-headed than them. But Paishe Yisrael, that is to say, they do a lot of mistakes. They make a lot of mistakes. That's what it says. The Paishe Yisrael are full of mitzvahs like a pomegranate is full of seeds. Once a person came to see the Rebbe on a personal issue. He had a problem, he wanted a bracha from the Rebbe. He was from a different community. And the Rebbe asked, they were not favorably inclined towards Lubavitch. And the Rebbe asked him, what did your Rebbe teach you recently? And his mind went blank. He couldn't remember anything. He was very embarrassed. The Rebbe coaxed him to try to remember something that the Rebbe, his Rebbe, might have told him. Finally, I got it, he said. He said, the Rebbe, it says in the Talmud that even the sinners of Israel are full of mitzvahs like the seeds of a pomegranate in the fruit. How can that be, he said? If they're sinners of Israel, how can sinners of Israel be full of mitzvahs? The Rebbe said, that's a good question. I have the same question. But by me, the question is the other way around. He says, what do you mean? He says, since Jewish people, even the most ordinary Jewish people, are full of mitzvahs, like a pomegranate is full of seeds, why should they be called sinners of Israel? Because from the Rebbe's point of view, the Rebbe's just looking from a higher point of view, that before Hashem, we're all on the same level. And that's why the Baal Shem Tov also taught his Hasidim, who taught their Hasidim, who taught us, to have tremendous respect and compassion and admiration and compassion for very, very simple people, because Hashem loves simple people, because they believe in him with a simple faith. So even if they are really illiterate, they know not, a person is illiterate, he knows nothing, and he's ignorant of the greatness of Hashem, but the little knowledge that we have motivates us. And leads us to be able to give up our lives for the holiness of Hashem. And we, simple people, are prepared to sacrifice our lives without any knowledge or reflection or meditation, as though it's just absolutely impossible for us to renounce the oneness of God and accept, even superficially, just to go through the motions, of believing in God. You know, like I remember I used to watch hockey games. I loved hockey. I came from Toronto. They play hockey in Toronto. We have a hockey team. And you see that the team from Montreal, the players from Montreal, are by and large Roman Catholic. Quebec is very Catholic, very Christian province. And when they would go on the ice to play, as they would jump from the seats where they were waiting, and your shift, it's a very strenuous sport. So you only play for a couple of minutes and then someone else takes your place. And they would jump out onto the ice, they would make a sign, a Christian sign. All the time. Did they know what they were doing? No, they don't. They just knew that was what they believed in. And if you had a Jewish player, even though all the other players would do it, he wouldn't do it. There was a Jewish hockey player, Alex Levinsky. He was 11. He was 11. Not a piece of bread that was leavened. 11 like a Levi in the base of Mikdash. So he was called Levinsky, first Jewish hockey player. He wouldn't do that. He wouldn't make the Christian sign when he went on the ice. He wouldn't do it. Without any reason. He wasn't a lambda. And this is because the unity of God shines into the wisdom of his intellect, and that influences his actions, his thought, his speech, his whole being. There we are. So that's the idea of how every person has access to the ability to serve Hashem with love. And when you learn Torah and when you do a mitzvah, another view of this is that he says here, we get it from our fathers, our fathers and mothers of the Jewish people. They implanted it in our genes. But also it affects the way we think. Because even though a person may not think about where he comes from and what his life is all about, but when a person is put to the test, he may say to himself, or she, they may react just, no, this is not me. I don't do this. I'm sorry, I don't do that. Or if they think about it, they think, and the example to this is Joseph in Egypt. I'm a Jewish person. I come from Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and Sarah and Rachel, Rivka and Rachel and Leah. I can't do that. I can't do that. It's just not in me to do something against God, because I come from Abraham and Sarah and Yitzchak and Rivka and so on. It's a very powerful, very deep feeling of love for Hashem, which we get from the fact that we know that we come from this very great, illustrious source. And therefore, the fathers of the Jewish people are compared to mountains, and the mothers to high hills. And it says when the Geula comes, Hashem is going to leap over the mountains and over the hills to bring us out of Golus. Okay, chapter 19. Well, we're ready to start chapter 19, but let's, before we conclude for today, say a word about the Parsha. We're finishing up the book of Vayikra on Shabbos, the third book of the Torah. We know that the Torah has 5 books, but really it's only 4. And you can start to think back of all the levels of 4 that we've learned about. There are 4 letters to the name of God. In the Seder service, there are 4 sons. We drink 4 cups of wine. It all stems from the idea that of the 4 letters of the name of God. But there are also 4 books of the Torah. I thought there were 5. There are. The 4 books of the Torah we heard at Mount Sinai from God. The 5th book of the Torah is from Moshe. Moshe is repeating what he learned on Mount Sinai in summarizing everything and adding details that he learned from Hashem. And that's the 5th book of the Torah. If we didn't have the 5th book of the Torah, then Yiddishkeit would be dogma. You know what dogma is? Dogma is just rules. I do this because I know this is what I'm supposed to do. Do you understand it? No, how can I understand it? It's from God. But because the whole Torah came to us through Moshe, through his intellect, and through his feelings, it gives us a chance to relate to godliness with our intellect and with our feelings. That's the accomplishment of the 5th and final book of the Torah. Similarly, we learned in the Haggadah that there are 4 elements. So every plague of the 10 plagues, the sages, we read this in the Haggadah, that every plague was a 4-fold plague because it affected all of the 4 elements. 4 elements that make up everything. Every one of us are made up of 4 basic elements. What are they? Air, you breathe air all the time. Without air, you can't exist. Water, without water, you become dehydrated. Hydra means water, I think in Greek. So you see, everybody's got their water in front of them because we live with water. We're 7, and the world is also made up of these same 4 elements, just like we're 75% of water. The world is 75% water. And fire, we're made up of fire. How are we made up of fire? What's your temperature? 98.6. It's pretty hot. It's not 9 today, it's like 55. It's not comfortable. When it goes up into the 80s and the 90s, you go, oh, whoosh, too hot. But that's what we are. We're 98. The earth itself, earth is cold. Earth is cold. But if you dig down into the earth, it gets hotter and hotter and hotter. The big companies, the diamond companies that drill mines into the earth, they're constantly pouring water into the mine to cool it off. Because the center of the earth is boiling hot. Why doesn't it burn up? So it's the same question. How come the sun doesn't burn up? How come the moon doesn't wear out? It's a different level of life. But it's still 4 elements of creation. So we have the 4 books of the Torah correspond to these 4 elements of creation. But then there's a 5th element. What's the 5th element? How can I have water and fire together in the same cup here? Well, if I have hot water, I could have a cup of coffee, but not too hot, not boiling hot. How can I have earth, which is cold, and fire, which is hot, and not have a conflagration, a fire in the house? Because there's a 5th element, and it has a name. But it's like the power of the infinite. It has a Greek name, Hayuli. It's called the Yuli, Hayuli. What is this? This is a level of energy that's higher than all the elements. And it holds them all together. So that, this is what it says in Hasidus, that if the fire is going to come and going to be together, placed together with the water, either the water is going to put out the fire, which is what firemen do, or the fire is going to burn up the water, which is what we do when we're cooking. How come that doesn't happen? Because for the fire to get to the water, it has to pass through the mediator, which is the power of connecting them, the power of the Hayuli, and it becomes bottle. It loses itself. It loses its quality that makes it what it is. And so by the time it gets to the fire, it's not water anymore. It's bottle. Bottle means totally subservient to the will of God. And similarly, if the water would go to put out the fire, it also has to pass through this koyach hayuli, and this is a powerful koyach, more powerful than any of the elements, that holds them all together. And that's the idea of that's why there is this fifth book of the Torah. So when we finish the Torah on Shabbos, we're going to say Chazak, Chazak, V'nis Chazek. Chazak means strong, be strong, and let us all be strong together. V'nis Chazek, let us all be strong together. Because we need the strength to go on to finish all the rest of the Torah and to bring it down into the level of Torah and mitzvahs. Just one thought, that we have two parshas at the end of this book of the Torah, which is Bahar and Bechukesai, and they both represent in their own way the concept of Mashiach. Bahar is a mountain. What does the mountain have to do with Mashiach? Good morning. Because when you think of a mountain, if you go to the Alps or go to Tibet, what's your response to the mountains? Wow. Majestic. They're majestic. What is majesty? It's a quality of kingship. Kingship is Mashiach. So when you see something like that, you feel it's a desire to be connected, and you're filled with admiration for the greatness of Hashem's creation and the greatness of Hashem. The Chukesai is a hike. What are the chukim? There are three levels of mitzvahs. There's mitzvahs that we would do them because it's just common sense. Like it says, you could learn modesty from a cat. You could learn not to steal from the ants because they're always stealing. And you can learn thrift from the squirrels and the chipmunks. And then there are the Eidos, which remember the great events in our Jewish life, like Pesach and Shabbos, which remind us of our relationship to God. And then there's Chukim. Chukim are decrees of the king. So just like a mountain tells us about the majesty of Hashem, the Chukim tell us about the greatness of Hashem, because why do we keep Chukim? Not because we understand them. We keep them because they're decrees of the king. They represent, from our point of view, a level of subjugation and commitment and loyalty. We do the mitzvahs that are called chukim, and we do them with all our heart, because a choik is something that's engraved, means engraved, like the letters of the Ten Commandments are engraved in stone. And letters that are written on parchment can be erased, can be scraped off or erased. They're two different things. The letters are one thing and the parchment is another thing. But letters in stone, like the Ten Commandments, cannot be erased. They're part of the stone. And these mitzvahs, called chukim, which we don't understand, we do them because Hashem says to do them. It's an element of service and subjugation. What is Hashem? And this is the idea that the commitment that we have to Hashem, which is our commitment to the King, which is the King of Kings, that's all, again, about Mashiach. So, in the L'chayera, these two concepts, a mountain and statutes of decrees of God, are like two opposites. Because a mountain expresses greatness, growing and becoming great, and chukim expresses limitation. I'm submitting my will to let my will be the will of God, so that He should make His will to be like my will. But submitting myself to the yoke of service of Hashem, that's the idea of b'chul kesai, my commitment to do the mitzvahs that are statutes of edicts of the King. Ultimately, every mitzvah, even the ones we understand, are also edicts of the King. And they come together, both of them come together, each in terms of representing the greatness of Hashem, the other representing the majesty of Hashem, both in their own way, enabling us to present the concept of Mashiach, which is just the era of Mashiach. It should be revealed and take us out of Golas Steak of Miyad Mamish.
Amen.
And an edict of the King is, we have to say, Bracha Harema. And to do this, we have to submit ourselves. In other words, you give a great cheer, but you have to remember to say Bracha Harema. There's this whole medrash about different mountains that all wanted to have the merit that the Torah should be given upon them. Mount Carmel had it, Mount Tabor, and Hashem said, no. Each one said, but great things happened on me. I deserve that Hashem should be revealed, the Torah should be revealed on me because I did great things for Hashem. Hashem said, no. He chose Mount Sinai and said, why Mount? Because Mount Sinai was not such a high, it was a little bit lower than the other mountains. Hashem wants to be revealed, but He wants to be revealed in a person who has bittul, has subservience. So the Torah is given on a low mountain, not on a high mountain. So we have to be mountains, because when you go, girls, when you go home and you meet your family and your friends, you are like mountains. You represent the greatness of Hashem. But you have to know that to represent Hashem, you have to be like a little bit smaller, a little bit humble, and you have to know that everybody else has the capacity that they should also be mountains. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Eloheinu pashas hadas v'chasrinon, al kol masha barasa, v'cha'es b'hem nefesh kol chai baruch, chei ha'olamim. We're going to learn a little chapter 19 until Shavuos.
Thank you, Rabbi Pape. Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos.
Thank you, girls. You are the best class ever had.
Oh. I'm gonna tell that to my sister. We taught her.
Well, it worked.
It worked.
Good Shabbos.